Hello, greetings. This is Tomar Levine from Soul Guidance for Awakening. And this is the beginning of my second week of my live streaming experiment, which I'm calling Stepping into the Unknown. And that may be what I talk about for the whole month of March, which is what my experiment so far includes. I happen to be speaking today, March 8th, on International Women's Day, and I just happened to hear the wonderful Claire Dubois of Tree Sisters speak very passionately and eloquently on the topic of the feminine and equating what we're experiencing in our world today as birth contractions. Really honoring that process, honoring the birth canal, honoring the process, whether you focus on the individual human woman or any personification or embodiment of the feminine principle, any aspect of nature with its continual process of birth, emergence, expansion, flourishing, decline, senescence, decay, death, rebirth, etc. The endless cycle that comes from the Divine Mother, comes from Mother Earth, comes from the principle of nature, which is the principle that we speak of when we say Divine Feminine. Or whether you're looking at this time in our world, in our culture, which can very much be equated to moving through the painful and excruciating contractions and the passage through a very, very narrow aperture and the being squeezed on all sides and being in the dark of the unknown and not knowing whether we will be okay on the other side, that the entire experience we're going through in our culture, in our world right now, can be equated to that passage of birth, going through the birth canal, going through the contractions, the very painful contractions. And, it's sometimes said that from the perspective of the baby being born, it may well believe it is dying. It's feeling all this pressure, physical pressure. It's going through all these changes, the very comfortable and perhaps blissful ease and comfort and nourishment and nurturance that it has grown to accept as normal in the 9 months in the uterus. Suddenly it's being expelled. It's being cast out of paradise. And it doesn't know if there's a future. And it doesn't know what these bright lights, which unfortunately assail most births in our world, our Western world, what they represent. So you might really give thought to this process of birth, which feels like death. Birth, which Claire Dubois also referenced as a kind of initiation. That's the actual experience of being born physically into the world you could call an initiation. My understanding of most initiatory processes as they have been codified in ancient religions or in indigenous cultures often involve great physical risk, possibly even the risk of death, or in other forms I've heard of, the experience of simulating death, so that you actually are in the dark, in isolation, perhaps not knowing if you will survive, not knowing what the outcome is. And these are considered the rituals of initiation into maturity, into mastery, into full adulthood, into one's own personal power. And just like the shedding of the skin of the snake, there is, as Claire also referenced, there is a total release, a total shedding of the old identity, the old familiar comfort zone, expectations, thinking we're in control identity. And something she spoke of, which is very close to my heart, is the passage that our world, certainly our Western culture, seems to be engaging in, and really must engage in, which has to do with the moving from the old paradigm, which you could call the patriarchy, the old structures, which, as we are understanding more and more clearly, involve and even require the destruction of nature in order to survive. And as she said, the worshiping of money over life, making money sacred when we know that what's sacred is life. And this culture cannot survive. That paradigm cannot survive. It dooms itself. It is a self-condemning path, worshiping that, quote, false god, and cutting oneself off from the source of one's life itself, having contempt for life in the form of nature and in the form of women. So as we are honoring women, although it seems kind of absurd to say there's one day of the year to recognize women, fortunately, women are recognized more and more throughout the year, but this day stands as a gathering of focus to the honoring of that which we instinctually, deeply, intuitively know in our deepest core is the truth of what gives us life, of what we love, what supports us and nourishes us, and what we need most. And that is the infinitely intelligent and infinitely creative power of that which we are a part of, an inexorable part of, that we are meshed with, emerge from, are held by, are blessed by, and that our life depends entirely 100% on the well-being, the thriving, the intactness, and the ultimate benevolent and beautiful expression of the magic and the wisdom of our natural universe and our natural planet. So we honor Mother. We honor the mother within each of us. We honor our personal mothers, grandmothers, our cultural mothers and grandmothers. We honor the earth and nature, whom we acknowledge as the mother, and we defy her at our peril. So we are going through a birth canal. We are going through the contractions that come in waves of pressure, of perhaps fear, and of looking into the darkness of the unknown, the darkness of the mystery from which we all come, the darkness of something which is becoming more apparent as we live on a very granular and daily basis in a state of becoming born. I'll leave you with that for now. Thank you. Many blessings. Bye for now.